everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, variety when it comes to directors is a kind of a fun thing because, Adam McKay mostly do, comedies, and Martin Scorsese mostly do, crime movies, and Uwe Boll, well, he does shit. But the thing is that some directors really have a lot of things to say in a lot of, different genres. Take, for instance, Stanley Kubrick, who has done, horror movies, sword and sandal movies, film noirs, he has done dramas, he has done science fiction, he has done comedies, he has done most things you can think of. But when you're saying Alfred Hitchcock, you almost instantly think about, murder mysteries or thrillers or stuff like that. And for the most part, that is what he does. But he has occasionally dipped his toes into different ponds. That's what we're gonna talk about today. His probably most unusual movie from 1955. And why doesn't this work as good as it should have? This is a movie that on paper could have been really, really fun, but for whatever reason they decided to do something slightly different that muddied the water a little bit and prevents this movie from reaching its full potential. But what is this movie about, and what type of things prevent it from becoming a really, really good movie? That's what we're gonna find out today. This is my review of The Trouble with Harry. So we have a beautiful autumn day in Vermont, and we have this guy who is going to shoot rabbits. It's not rabbit season, nor is it duck season, but that is a story for another time. Now, he fires away a couple of shots, and then he discovers a dead body with what appears to be a bullet hole in the head. And he discovers, oh no, I have, killed the guy accidentally. But just as he, stands there with, his rifle in hand and the murder victim at his feet, a very nice lady shows up and, immediately, recognizes this guy and says that, well, maybe I also had something to do with, his demise because, he was very rude to me and I bonked him on the head and stuff like that. And she agrees to help him, hide the body. But once they are, planning this, a young woman who lives nearby shows up and also sees the body, but doesn't seem to be too bothered by this thing. And what they will discover is that a whole bunch of people is going to show up and surround this dead corpse, which they will, discover is Harry. But how will Harry's death affect them all? And how did he die? Why did he die? And who was he really? And will they be able to, conceal this dead body from the law? Or will his death ultimately, prove to be something that will crush their lives? Or will his demise actually make them happier? And will this thing actually be beneficial to not only them but to this little town? That's what we're gonna find out in this movie. Now, it should be said that this is not a whodunit. This is not a murder mystery. This is not a thriller. This is a sort of kind of comedy, sort of. Because I don't know if this is how comedies were structured in the mid-50s, but I didn't find the movie to have particularly many, funny jokes. Because, having trouble getting rid of a dead body is something that could be really, really funny and can be used for absurd and hilarious situations. And they teasing that this is a thing that they could have done, because we have a couple of sequences towards the end when bodies have to be hidden and people misunderstand other people, and that is the thing that you can both get tension and comedy out of. They almost got neither of it, because we don't have traditional jokes that at least I thought was very funny, and we didn't have any tension surrounding Harry's death. There wasn't much under the hood, but here is where this movie actually kind of worked, because this was a pleasant movie. This was a movie that made me happy, because it's not a big spoiler, but Harry's death is actually very beneficial to almost everybody who comes in contact with him in various unusual ways. And I really like that. And that made this movie a joyful experience, and the characters are so likable. And the characters are so nice, and you want nice things to happen to them. Maybe there is where the tension lies. Will their, lives be destroyed? Well, you don't really want that. But on the other hand, the tempo of this movie is so sluggish. Sometimes it takes forever to get anywhere. And also the soundtrack doesn't help, because the soundtrack is kind of a wacky comedy soundtrack, but because the thing that happens is not, good slapstick or good situation comedy or stuff like that, it doesn't really mesh at all. But I cannot stay too mad at this movie, because the finale of this movie, the last 10 minutes, is actually really good, and not necessarily saves this movie, but at least elevates it from I didn't like this movie at all to I like that ending. It provided this movie with a cathartic ending that I thought was very beneficial to the movie. Maybe this movie worked a lot better with the audience of 1950s rather than today. So maybe this movie has aged out, or whatever you say in these situations. But I think still this is a movie that I understand why it has a high score on IMDb. I understand why people are talking about this as one of Hitchcock's masterpieces, but to me it doesn't stand a chance towards the really good movies he has done, Rear Window, North by Northwest, Psycho, and Torn Curtain, one of his all-time best and most underrated movies. And also, who can forget Dial M for Murder. Anyway, The Trouble with Harry is not a movie that will leave a big impact on you or anything like that. The movie happens, and after what seems like a rather long time, the movie is over, and you can feel a bit of relief that, whew, that's over. It's not a bad movie. Hitchcock hasn't made that many movies that are, actively bad, but it was difficult to maintain interest throughout the entire movie, because of the sluggish tempo, and because that for some reason it was difficult to get invested despite the very nice and very pleasant gallery of characters we have in this movie. By the way, it's Shirley MacLaine's debut film. How about that? One small thing that annoyed the hell out of me is the way that Harry is positioned when he is dead. Who dies like this? It looks so staged and arranged, and it has nothing to do with, the solution to the whole thing. So why did they want to put him in that particular manner? I don't know. It annoyed the hell out of me. But anyway, the movie as a whole is not very good, but I am going to give it 33 points because of the very, very good ending and the good finale of the whole thing. It isn't a movie that leaves a big impact on you, but it is a nice and pleasant movie, and it gives you a bit of a nice and pleasant feeling. So at least it has something going on for itself. But it is a very nice looking movie. The cinematography really makes Autumns in Vermont look absolutely exquisite. So I'll see you next time for Well So and So reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.